class. I'm out today, but I will be answering emails of questions, and I might be able to answer questions in the chat during the Google Meet at the beginning of the hour. So, your assignment today is to get familiar with the zombie letter directions and to start drafting. And I'm going to talk about different ways to approach this assignment, and I'm going to walk you through some examples as well. So, the zombie letter assignment is to pretend you are the person in the little character description I gave you yesterday. If you were absent yesterday, you will see that character description in the private comment in this assignment. And what you're doing is you are preparing a letter to write to a committee that your person should get that vaccination to protect them from the zombie assignment and be able to stay at the compound. Now, I want you to consider these 7 questions in the directions of this letter. A lot of students will find that organizing your letter, you will have an introduction describing who your character is. And consider how would you introduce yourself in a professional tone. We'll look at that in an example in a few minutes. Then consider the strengths and the weaknesses of that character. Age is a factor, right? Is the committee going to want to give a vaccination to somebody who's old, or are they going to prioritize people who are younger and will live longer? Most characters are going to have a downside. Most characters are going to have a strength. So you're going to want to write a paragraph that reveals why that strength makes your candidate important for the compound. You also are going to want to write a paragraph that recognizes or puts a spin on the weakness. And this is where you can be creative. Some students might have a character who has gotten in trouble, and you might write a paragraph in the voice of that character that admits that, but then maybe you write about how you've learned something from that experience that makes you actually even better candidate. So you're basically writing a letter, and most letters are going to be about 4 paragraphs that makes your candidate a good survivor. Now, we'll talk more about 6 and 7 in Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and how to revise to add for that. But remember, you're using logic. You're using an emotional appeal. You're stating the credibility of your character. And then the 4 persuasive techniques might be you might use an analogy or metaphor. You might do a cause and effect relationship in a couple sentences. You could do a compare and contrast. You could tell a small story about your character in a couple sentences. So we'll go over 6 and 7, and you may be revising to add. Okay, so now that we understand the assignment, let's note that I've made a document where you'll start typing, but you've got to set up your assignment to look like this format. Here is a sample letter. Make up a address. Use today's date. You can make up a dress for this. And then you have your dear. And then here is an example of using block style formatting. Notice every paragraph's in a block, and then we add a space between the paragraphs. We don't use the indenting tab button for block style. So you're getting used to another formal business letter writing, and this is what people utilize most often in their job application letters, your cover letters for a resume. So if you have questions, just recognize today's a day to get used to drafting. Now let's say you get stuck. At first I was thinking that I was going to have everybody have to fill out this argument notes one more time. But in reality, some of you might actually feel like you can just mentally think through these ideas and then start drafting. But I want you to have this in mind. Other students are going to use this draft of the argument notes, and you will use this to reassess any missing notes from last week. Okay, so as of today, if you haven't done the LeBron notes or the Martin Luther King notes, I am not accepting any late work on that assignment. But what you will do is you'll fill out this argument notes on your zombie letter approach, and that will replace your missing grade. I also can meet you in office hours or work with you at other times if you need some help with this. But let's walk through what we might do in our thinking. What's your claim? Well, it's about why should your character be given the vaccination. Then you might want to actually start with your reasons. What are some reasons that make your character the best choice? And it's probably going to be something from the strengths. And then you can get a little creative. I mean, you can't make your character a Marvel superhero. You can't go that far. That's one of the directions. You got to live within the character's strengths and weaknesses. And then you start coming up with your own evidence. This is you being a creative writer. You can create a story about your character. You can state things that they have done in their jobs that makes them qualified. You can discuss, and you must discuss it, acknowledge a downside of your character. If your character's old, you might want to spin that and say, well, people who may be old might not be able to live that long on the compound, but maybe their experience is more valuable than years of living there. Think about it. So use your acknowledge a downside and then respond. So some students, you might just look at these notes and think about this organizational strategy and think about how this guides your paragraphs. A lot of students will find that, evidence, this is like possible paragraphs that you write. The acknowledge and respond could be one paragraph or two paragraphs. You'll make choices. Some people may find that the evidence could be more than one paragraph. But yes, we want to write a letter that is organized and we want it to flow. We don't want to simply turn in on Friday a one paragraph draft. Some of your first drafts might look like that and you'll get feedback and I'll say, hey, where can you revise to split up your paragraphs? And then where can you add topic sentences, transitions? How do you make it flow like an organized progression of ideas? Most students find this assignment kind of fun and engaging, and we're practicing. We don't need to write a perfect letter to score a 10 out of 10. You're going to find that this is a really excellent way and sadly a very timely assignment that I've been using before the pandemic that reminds us how to think persuasively with pathos, that's the emotional appeal, ethos, showing credibility and authority, and logos, logic, using our persuasive techniques that advertisements use all the time. And if we work like a writer, we may next week in our future readings be able to analyze and see arguments much more proficiently. Good luck today. Get writing a draft or start with the argument notes, especially if you have missing notes from before break. And I want you to submit something today. You're going to hit view assignment and then hit the add button and turn in a draft of whatever you finish. It's just a draft. It's just practice informative. Good luck. Hi, LT. Did you wake up, buddy? Do you need some milk?